Hello everyone. So today we're kind of doing a bit of an art tutorial, primarily for people that, well, can't do art. You probably might be one of them. You feel like you could never do it. You don't have skill. You're not like these good artists. Well, me neither, but look what I've accomplished. And I'm serious when I say I am not good at art. But I figured out techniques. I figured out some ways. I figured out some tools to basically compensate for the lack of skill. And I'm going to share that with you guys today. We're just going to go through one straight recording, some straight run. I'm going to show you guys techniques and basically ways to do art when you don't have skill. You don't need to be able to draw a straight line. You don't have to be able to shade. I figured out some things and we're going to kind of go over some stuff with that. Now the program we're going to be using is Krita. Krita is a free program. You might find it on such like Steam for like $10 or so, but Krita is free. It's on Steam because that's kind of a supporter pack and such like that. So if you want it on Steam, you got to pay. But if you get it straight from their website, it is free. And if you want to follow along directly, download Krita and I'll show you guys a bit of what we're doing with that. Now, if you are somebody that kind of dabbles a little art but feels they kind of need this help because they can't do art, but they have an art program they prefer, feel free to use it. There's a lot of similarities and you might be able to figure it out because you've been using that program a little easier than like with Krita if you have no clue what that is. So if you guys want to follow along, download Krita. We're going to get onto using that and stuff. So that's what we're going to get right into right now. Okay, so we're going to go ahead, load it into Krita, and we're going to start doing some art. Okay, everyone, so this is Krita for those who are watching before downloading or whatnot. It's a delightful little program, and we're going to go over how to do art with this program. Now, I'm just doing one little take of it, so it might be a little weird and all that, but we're going to go over some simple, basic stuff with it, all right? So on the left here, you will see some tools. On the right, there'll be a little cutoff, but for the most part, you'll see most stuff. We're not going to go into any of that. That's kind of more advanced stuff. Other than you can see that your background will be locked and stuff. You can unlock it if you want to modify the background and remove it and stuff like that. But you have layers. Now, for those who are unfamiliar with digital art, layers are like having little images on top of images, and it will let us create really nice stuff. And we'll get over that in a bit. So first and foremost, you will see on the left side with all your tools, obviously the paintbrush tool. This is the freehand brush tool. That's where you're going to draw with and stuff, right? Now, for most people, you're going to have trouble drawing. You're going to be like, oh, I'm going to draw a straight line. But you can't. And I don't know why the color's orange right now. Must be the last color I used or something. Let's go with black then. So on the right, you'll see there's the color wheel when you have something selected, like your brush. This is where you select it. You can spin it around, do all sorts of colors and such. And you have basically a little triangle for the most part, and you'll see it kind of RGB. It's all advanced stuff. You just pick the color you like, you know. You don't have to worry about that. You're not trying to do something overly advanced. But for the record, you have three sets in this little triangle. You have to the top, you have the dark black, you have the bottom left, you have white. So in between that two will just be gray. Gray's all available no matter what color you have. And then of course you have the color. So the color based on how much black and white are added into it, so you have a nice little gradient to work with on what color you're going for. So regardless of where you have it, if you're looking for black, it's always available. It's at the top of your pyramid, and that will give you your nice crisp dark lines. Now, if you're going to use Krita though, there's a very important thing that I learned very late on it, and these are the brushes. Now you'll see up here at the top there's like normal and other things. This is something that's more complicated. You're going to keep that normal. See, we're trying to remove complications here with the art. So that's the big thing here. Keep it normal. And then you have these brush types. Now these are various preset brushes and stuff. These ones that look normal are the ones you're going to want to go for. Now, I already have this preset for this one. But what you're going to want to do for a lot of stuff, until you're figuring this out, is you're going to want to uncheck anti-alias. Now, you can't see that unfortunately because for some reason OBS isn't, but if you click the little top here, the brush, you'll see these brush things, but you want to click this little three arrow slash and little tilde looking drawing thing, and that will open up your brush editor. You will see anti-aliasing right there under the shape and everything. It's very easy to see. You turn it off. Now the difference between anti-aliasing, we'll go with this size 40 here. So this is without anti-aliasing. You will see there's a lot of pixelation to it. Anti-aliasing removes the pixelation, but there's a problem with that. So let's turn anti-aliasing on to show that. You will see there's a lot of kind of feathery bits to it. It tethers it. It kind of makes it more, it's not jagged, right? So the problem is, let's just show off this. Let's use bright yellow. That will show it off. So you'll see here, it is flush with that pixelation. But down here, we have some problems. You can see it's not flush. We have this grayscale on top of it that doesn't get colored in by black or yellow. And so the problem with that would be if we try to get rid of the black. Now you see a problem here. My model actually has this issue. So I had some difficulties stretching it out to cover it up and get rid of that and stuff. So that is one thing to consider when you're doing the art, is anti-aliasing or not. So I'm going to turn mine off because I like doing anti-aliasing later. And also remember that Control-Z works at all times with these art programs. But that is just the basic of basics. You got things like your fill tool over here. Everyone knows the fill tool and the brush. Now for those that are really unfamiliar, don't forget you have things like a straight line tool. So if I can't draw a straight line, I can just push it there myself, right? And create it. There could be some weirdness with smaller sizes to it because of pixelation. Everything's squares, so it can be a little weird with certain things. But an important thing to know is when you're doing the straight line, you're like, but I want to make it perfectly horizontal, and I can't. Hold Shift. Shift and Alt and Control are certain keys for a lot of functions to help you do things proper. So this way, you can always draw a straight line, even at angles. So perfectly 45-degree angle there. So even without tools, you can make a simple, obvious triangle. Well, I guess it won't be a form of triangle, but you know, you can make certain forms of it. You can make it straight like this and straight like, you know, different angles, different sets. See, it's just, you can do so much with it. And you can use that effect for a lot of things to kind of keep it all straight. But that's all just the basics here. The one tool I want to show you guys, no matter what, is the Bezier Curve tool. Now this is going to be a little thing for those who can't zoom in. Can I see that there? Yeah, okay. I'll zoom in on it when I get to it there. So you've probably already seen it, and I sound insane right now. But anyways, Bezier tool is interesting because you just click a point, and then you click another point, and you can move the curve around. So that means that if you want to create an interesting shape or something, you can use the Bezier Curve tool to move it. Now if you start off with the drag, it starts it off with a very strange thing. That can be useful for certain things, but it might cause effects. So the best way to do it is generally click where you start, and then you click and drag afterwards. So you want to get that starter point to kind of do something, you know? You can do all sorts of things with it, but it's really great for tracing and stuff, kind of like rotoscoping. Now, if you ever have a problem where you're trying to get rid of it or finish it, you can right-click, we'll undo it every stroke you have with the Bezier tool. So if you're trying to get something looking right, you're like, oh no, I messed up. Just right-click, it will take you back, like Control-Z kind of thing. Control-Z might just stop the entire thing. But if you're also there and you're trying to do it, and you're like, at the final one, you're like, oh, but how do I get rid of this? If there's no line, you just click the final line, and it completes it with nothing, we'll do it. But normally, when you make the Bezier tool, and you can do straight lines too if you don't drag it, when you do them all, it will complete the shape that you're making. Now, another thing with that is there's a Bezier selection tool too. So if you want to get certain shapes that are really weird or something, or you're trying to like rotoscope something, for content creators, this is great for making thumbnails. You can make weird shapes with it instead of having to do like the what was this one? The freehand selection tool. Some people call it the lasso tool and stuff from back in the day and such, but sometimes the Bezier tool is better. So that is the tool that I use for all my angles and edges, and that makes things look great. Now, another thing we're going to go over is the freeform selection tool. So when you make something, you know, you're going to modify it with the freehand selection. For those that really don't know, most people know about this, the stretchy, grabby bits and stuff to really work with it and stuff. And of course, Shift makes it even, Alt makes it stretch on both sides. And so there's a lot you can kind of do with all this to create your shapes and move them around right. Now, what you should know about this, though, is controlled. In Krita in particular, I don't know if other programs have this or not. They probably do. But I know I learned this about Krita, and this is a game changer for me. You can change perspective with controlling clicking, allowing you to make a three-dimensional effect to art. So let's just say you were making an earring for a character or something. Let's just go with a nice star shape or something. It's not going to look great. I just want to show this off here. So we have a star shape. It's an earring. I don't know. Or it's a red earring, okay? And you're like, oh, but I want it to kind of be at an angle for this one to look a little more dynamic. I mean, you got that, and you can create all sorts of effects with this. So when you do that, it's great. So this will give you that really good effect. Now, this is all just the precursor stuff. We're going to get into the actual art in just a second. But just remember that when you're doing something, you're going to want to pay attention on the right here to the layers so that you can layer on things together. You can make things look a lot better. We're going to be using the layer tool in a minute, too. So just remember that layers can let you put picture on top of picture and smash them all together and even cut away certain bad things with it. And that's what you're going to want. So layers are going to be the most important thing I can talk about today. But we're going to go over let's go over one more technique. I want to teach you guys something really interesting. So I don't think that OBS will record this properly, but we'll at least see the results. So let's say you want to make a shadow for something. I like, you know, you have, let me think. Let's just go ahead and make something here. So obviously we have the shape tools and everything else. And so let's make a square. Now on the right here also, so you know when you're making like shapes and everything else, you can alter it a little bit with the tool options, such as rounding. And I have these rounded off to 6 points there, so it looks like that. But let's say we don't want that, so we're going to take it to 0. So now my square, it still has a little bit. Let me double check. Seem to have messed with my tools a little bit. Oh well. It doesn't matter. I'll fix my problems with that later. What did I do wrong here, though? Docks sometimes disappear, so they can be a little difficult. I don't know where my little docking tab went. Well, regardless, that's more complicated than I know how to do. So even I have issues with a lot of these things. Hold on a sec. I just now realized my OBS was not the right size for everything. Or no, it was. Okay. I can't tell. Try to get everything going here. Okay, so we have a square here, right? Let's make it a gray square. Then we gotta really put to it. Now let's say we want to add a kind of effect to it. We want it to be shaded or something. Well, I have it right here. Now if I went with the selection, so I didn't select the outside, I can now have the mask, the selection mask thing you see on the side is just telling you like what's selected a little bit. It's not a big important thing, but let's say I'm wanting to only like work on the this area here, this color. If I have it selected, I can't draw anything outside of it. So that's something there for the really rookie people. Now there's going to be a lot of people that are kind of like half know everything and be really upset with this, but we'll get into that proper thing here. Also, just so you know, you could turn off your layers with a little button here if you want to hide something or show something. So let's get on with the part I'm trying to explain here. My mind is 1,000 times a second. I can't catch up with myself. So let's say I'm wanting to add shadow to this. So let's see. Let's say the sun's coming up here on the top left, and we kind of want to make a shadow effect. So I might just reform it a little bit. And so we add this. Now, obviously, it's shaded, but it doesn't look like a good shadow. So what I have is this thing called a blur tool. And you can use blur. I love blur. Blur's my favorite thing ever. So blur will kind of stretch everything out and kind of work certain ways against it. And then if you change your opacity here too, you can create kind of a shadow effect. So now you see the square has a shadow because of that. And there's other ways to kind of go around it and stuff. So let's make another layer. And this time we're going to use white. And we're going to do the opposite. We're going to do white up here. White across. And curve that a little. Now I'm doing it freehand because, well, since it's just a shadow and we're blurring it, we're smudging it anyways. A little bit of oddities doesn't really make it look weird. It sometimes makes it look even better. So we'll do blur as well on it. So now we've got a little lighter thing. And also lower opacity to make it more realistic. And so you've got kind of a weird effect. You can kind of see it kind of makes a little like divot look here in this circular area here. Right? So that kind of makes it look like it's got a bit of a smudge or an indent and stuff. And you can use blur effects to really create some really interesting effects. A lot of my indents and stuff, I like doing a really interesting technique. Actually, I already have that there. So a really interesting technique I like to do. Well, that is the actual thing. Okay, it's hard to tell with the when you have certain light things on your little layers and stuff because it doesn't pick it up because it's white and stuff. So white color is kind of a little difficult. But let's see if I can cause the effect in here. There's one of my favorite techniques I like to do is like, let's say I'm making a indent or something and I want it to kind of raise. I would add some white there beside it. Obviously you can see I can't draw a straight line. Let's see if we can get this effect to work. So white beside black, blurring them together. Do a little bit of it. I gotta remember which side it was I would do it on. Maybe it was the other side. It will cause a very interesting effect is blurring white with black. I think that's right. Let's see. We get it. I think that was it. So it's kind of a metallic sight. When you see it further back, you'll see. So now that we've got it further back, you kind of see it kind of makes it look like it's a beveled raised object with a indent around it, like someone stamped it out. And so the effect here is that when you're getting light things, you would put white on the outside of it, right? And if you're going down, you would have black. So what I should do here is try and, actually no, there's a technique here. Very interesting with creative thing that's very important to learn is layer style. I don't think it, nope, it's not showing in OBS. But if you right click on a layer with some art and you go to layer style, you can add these strokes or outlines to it kind of. And so if I want to do that, I could set to normal, low size, and yeah, you'll have to figure this out yourself a little bit, unfortunately, because you can see it kind of, I can add it to it and it's kind of there. So I could put a color to it or something and add a layer style, and then you go to stroke. Now it has various settings, like remember I talked about earlier, the top we have normal, and there's all these other things you could add to it. You want to keep it normal. This is by default multiply, and that adds a little things of color. I like to do normal so I can outline. It's a great way to, like you're doing text, to turn it to have an outline around the text. So layer style, stroke, modify it a little, make it less, get rid of the opacity, And especially, so you want opacity 100%, not 75, which I just accidentally did earlier. And that will give you the effect to do that. Now that we have this set here with this, let's see if that effect is what I had. So now you can see there's a weird effect to it. So that was not the right way to do it. So let's get rid of that and just keep it the way we had it. That's how you get a kind of bevel effect. Now if I had a little bit of an outline around the outside, the problem was I had some on the inside too, and I thought that might create a positive effect for it. Blur can have a lot of weird effects, but this will be like how you create like a stamp effect. Would be like working with blur, and you can have just like, look, that's without blur, it's just a bunch of stupid lines, right? But with blur, we have a really cool effect. And if you had a bunch of these around, you can create kind of a metallic layer. So let's do that actually. So we have this around. I can have the move tool here. So the deform tool, I can move it around and stuff. And what would I do? You can kind of copy and paste an active layer and add another one. Add another one. Actually, let me see. Can I get that? Sometimes these can be a little finicky. If you change like to the select tool and back to it, it will kind of like change to the stuff that you are working with. So what we're working with here is we're going to have like, you've seen that metal texture you'll see in a lot of things, industrial and stuff. But now we have a lot of those. So you can saw it kind of made that bevel effect. Now we have a bunch, and we have a texture like you would have with those like metal like sidings and stuff you would see everywhere. And that's kind of like how you can achieve that effect, doing like these things. Repetitiveness does it. Now, that is just some techniques and everything we've gone over. I'm sure what you guys want to do is learn to properly draw. So let's go for something proper. Let's draw a sword. Let's draw a sword. A sword's great. It's multiple textures. It's interesting, and above all else, no one uses them anymore for combat, so it kind of gets around a lot of sensors. So we're going to do that. So we're going to create a new layer to get rid of all those old layers, and we're going to do it. Now, one final thing about technique. At the top here, horizontal mirror tool and vertical mirror tool. What does that do? You have this little thing you set. Wherever you set it, it doesn't matter on the little middle bit here with this little button. It's just so I can grab it. So this will mirror the other side of it. So I do this. Oh, I have it set to white. You won't be able to see that. So I do that. It mirrors it down below. So if you were like wanting to use this to make a sword or something, you go like this. Then you go like this. And you kind of like a blade shape that way. You can do it that way. And you can do top as well. And if you do both, you get, you know, make some crosshairs or something. I don't know. Make it Star Foxy. All sorts of things you can kind of do with these mirror tools. And that's really great if you try to make a person. Because then you could just Bezier tool it and just, you know, you get just half the face, and you only need a little bit, and bam. You get that. Also hit enter if you're trying to create a Bezier tool shape without like finishing it. Just for a line. Just hit enter, and that finishes it. Alright, so let's make a sword. So, obviously, let's start with the tip, because the tip might be more difficult to do with certain things. Now we're not going to try and make anything special or fancy. We're just going to try to create a sword. With just the line tool here, we're starting to make the blade and stuff. And how do we want to end it or something? We could make it complete straight. And you can keep on going straight because, you know, using shift and the line tool, you know, we've got our nice little blade. And we'll say, oh, but it's too low. I'm going to more effort to work on the handle. So we move it upward using the transform tool. Nice little thing to work with. And let's see here. Let's add another line here. We're going to try to keep... I'm a little finicky with stuff. I like old weapons, so I know a lot about this stuff. So let's go here. We'll make a little bit of a metal guard here. Now, you see all the pixelation. It just looks weird, right? Like it's not going to be able to make something good. So we'll create that for the edge blade here. Then we can create all sorts of shapes to it, right? So let me think. What would look good for this design? Now, obviously, the problem here for a lot of stuff is you also see, like when you do straight things, sometimes you get these little rivets. It's because it's a size that doesn't work that well with it. Well, that's all. That's the issue when you're working with like really like detailed small pixels. So I'm like, this is only 5 pixel size kind of stuff. So it's 1,000 by 1,000 on this thing. If you do more pixels, it'll be more, but it also lags your system a little and causes various issues. So sometimes I just let to. It's because you get these little marks behind, like when it's like in between 2 pixels, the line will give you the wrong effect. So like if you have it right, you can see the straight line there is flat. But if I try doing a... No, I can't do it right. Because I swear, when you want to screw up, it won't do it right. So you can see now it works. Let this... I know. I'll just do it where I was doing it earlier. Man, when you want to screw up, it won't do it like you want. Every time I'm doing it now is perfect. Let's see if I can do it in between. No, I do it directly on. Okay, you'll see the sawtooth effect sometimes the problem. I can't make it work for some reason right now, even though I couldn't get rid of it a minute ago. So let's use Bezier tool here. So we want to we got straight, but if we want to curve it a little up, we can get the shape going like with this. So let's use Bezier curve tool for the rest of this handle, right? So we're going to move this up and curve this a little bit. But here's the problem. Oh no, I can't go a straight line right here, right? You see, I'm kind of stuck because Bezier curve follows your last curve. So it gets stuck. So I just hit enter and then we have it. And then we can pick the next style and how we're going to do that. We got to figure out the size, but we're just free forming it. It doesn't have to be perfect here, right? So we just do that. We curve it, make it look right, just get it to look good. And you can still, if it's good angle, you can still keep going with it. And then just get to the middle. Because we're doing a mirror tool, we can just go straight in the middle and enter. Now don't worry so much about the effects here. We're gonna smooth these out using blur later and stuff. So now we have the handle done. And sometimes I could maybe here to here. Now, if you use different colors for different things, like if you're doing a darker brass kind of black around for the handle, instead of just a black outline, or you made a much thinner black outline, you get a much better effect. But again, this is for people that can't. So we're just starting off with basic stuff. So now the handle could be really fancy and stuff, but what if we don't make it fancy yet? We will just make it nice and good. Because remember, this can just be the outline. This can be the start of it. This doesn't have to be great. We'll go back to the line tool so I get a nice straight line, simple. You can use the Bezier tool too, but sometimes takes a bit more effort to do it. And we will click the handle. And so that's a basic sword, right? Let's say I want to make a circle. Now here's a problem. If you do it, you get both sides because of that, right? Now the problem would be if you turn it off, what if you do it that you're off a little? Oh no, I didn't get it right. Well, if you use the middle mirror tool you've been using and you do it just right. Now if you hold Alt while moving your shape around, you can kind of move it. So if I use Shift to like keep it nice and circular, I can hold Alt and move to the right spot, right? And so that would get the right shape if you wanted it. Now, the thing here is though, I kind of want to overlap a little. So we have the problem that this is connected to this. So what we want to do is a new shape. Now, if the circle's perfect on both sides, because we get that X right there perfectly in the center, it's not going to hurt anything else. So now we have the circle here. This would be for the pommel of the sword, but you can see it's a little too big, zooming out. So we'll try to make it smaller. Trial and error is the best way. And since I'm doing it on a separate layer, we won't have any problems. So now we have a pommel. So if I like ever color this in, it doesn't matter about the other thing. It's a completely different picture on it. And honestly, if I was really trying hard on this, I would do everything like this pommel. That's what's going to give you the best effect. But we're just keeping this simple. So paint layer, let's go center the sword. There's effects to it later. So now we have a basic shape of a sword. Yay! We've drawn something simple. But that doesn't look good. That doesn't look great. That doesn't do it. How do we make the sword great? Color and shade. So we have the basic shape of it for the most part. And we're going to want to color it. Now sometimes one thing I like doing is a layer for the colors. So like, let's say I do this here. Since we have the sword here, we can select it on here. Now hold shift to get multiple selections of here. So now we got the selection to the side of the blade without affecting the outline, right? Now you can also name your layers if you get confused by a lot of this stuff, but this is just a simple thing. So if we move to the blue, we can kind of get a little bit of a blue tint to it. Sometimes makes it a little nicer shading color. Something you see in a lot of cartoons and stuff. A lot of blue tints go well with like certain swords. That kind of like blue essence really carries it off, right? And we're just trying to do basic colors here. So let's go back to the main layer. We're just going to select all the center things and color in like a child. I know, sounds a little weird, but trust me, it's going to be interesting. So you want central, like basic stuff. You use the color wheel picker on the top to kind of find something that fits. And you don't want to go for the dark or the light periods for this. We'll get that in a minute because we're going to do shading and lighting on it too. So find something that fits it and everything, right? It doesn't matter if it's a little off or weird or good or bad. We'll get to that later. And if you hold control when you're using one of these things here, it will go to this eyedropper tool, which you're basically selecting the color. Again, for anyone that's confused by me talking about basics, some people don't know art at all. That's kind of what we go there. So we go here, and we got the color again. So we'll move it up a little darker because we want to make a different shade for here. Let's make it even darker. More on the gray side instead of the blue side, with it kind of makes it really pop out. And let's see. You know, you're just looking for all these colors. So I'm trying to look for a nice sandy brown to do for here. You know, something like you would have for like a simple softwood kind of effect. And then, of course, we have our pommel. Where did I put the pommel at? There we go. Uh-oh. So, you notice the problem I have here. I clicked on the wrong layer for certain parts and stuff. So how do we fix that? Well, I like to do selection. We find the part that had it. So, uh-oh again. See my problem? Control Z is your friend. We'll just do this over again. All right. So now we find out and make sure so that is the pommel. Let's go ahead and color the pommel. I want to just we'll just go ahead. We go to the pommel selection. Maybe I should rename these here. Pommel color. Pommel. And we'll just call that one short color. That way I won't get lost and stuff. So now you can see why you don't do that. Sword outline. Now I'm doing this all in one take. So it's gonna be a little chaotic, people. It's fine. It's fine. It's fine. So I have the selection here. Go to pommel color, and I'm gonna color in the pommel. Now we've already done this stuff for the sword color here. So we're gonna do the sword outline again and just get all those things, because we don't have a lot of things. We don't have to worry so much. Now, these errors and issues, like even me, you're going to see these happen all the time with your stuff. So you just kind of got to remember what you're doing for a lot of things. Then just do them. Don't worry. You're going to have problems and issues and stuff. Try to remember where you were doing what, and, you know, go accordingly, right? Don't worry so much. Don't fret over it. Just do it. I want to put the pommel above all of this because layering the ones on top will be shown above the ones on the bottom. So now let's just deselect everything. We have a colored sword, but it doesn't look great. It looks simple, like the design you would have on a magazine or something. So how do we achieve it looking great? We're going to add more layers. This one's going to be for shadows. So let's do the blade first. We'll go to sword color because we don't care about the outline. The outline's black. It won't be seen. So we're going to go with this for sword color. So we'll go with, we're going to go ahead and change the name of this one. It's right click on properties for those that don't know, and call it blade shadow. Now in all art and stuff, when you're doing things, you want to figure out where the light comes from. I always like doing top left, so it makes it a lot easier to do things. So now we've got these effects here. So let's see, what can we do? Well, even just a black outline can do things good here. Let's see. We'll do... so now my problem here is we're doing asymmetrical now. So I need to turn off my mirror tool so that I can add some shadows to it. Messing up. It's not clicking where I want it to. So, okay. And shift to keep it nice and straight. Now, sometimes you can see this line is just straight there, right? It's not perfect there for the center. But sometimes that actually can work in your favor. So if we do like a blur, it cuts through. Don't want that actually. Let me unselect that. With control and click, you can unselect things. Now we're doing the magic wand tool for those that are unfamiliar with this stuff. And so let's see. We'll deselect all that and go back to the sword color and just select the part we're trying to work on. And we've got our blade. You can select my blade shadow layer. And we're just testing things out. We want to see how it looks. So you can see this adds a nice little shimmery shine to it, right? And that would make a good shadow effect to it, right? But it's not much of one. We can do better. Let's increase the size. Up here at the top is where you increase the size of your thing. And we're going to increase the size of our line. And just kind of make a nice darker thing. Now for some straight shading and stuff, people will do things like just flat colors, darker color here and there. And that's fine, but we're going to do it with blur. Because blur is the lazy man's answer. You can see now we have a nice shadow here. Now another thing we can do is let's compound the shadows. We will, the top here, down to the corner there. We'll make it a little bit like there. There we go. And since I'm using the non-anti-alias colors, I can just insert that in. And then we'll blur this as well. So we have 2 layers of shadows. I'm not going to worry about naming this one for another reason in a second. So I'm going to take this here. I'm done. So now I'm going to merge these. Let me just make sure we get good things. So it's a little dark in some ways, but we're going to half it a little bit because it's a little extra shadow. And we're going to merge these together. Merge with layer below. I don't think it shows on this stuff at all. So we're going to merge with layer below is when you do right click it. And so now we have our little shape. Now this is the problem. You can see blur creates an edge that we don't want. We're going to make it longer than everything. There's a reason to my madness. Usually. So we make it a little bigger than our subject so that we kind of like encompass more than it. And it was only top and bottom we were worried about so much. And we wanted to, we can make it a little bit wider too, to the left. Kind of pulls it out, but it's fine. All right, so now it's bigger than the shape that we're trying to shadow. So I just go here to sort color and select there because that's on this layer. If you also, this is some fun stuff for you guys. If you click on your layers and alt-click, you can isolate it to just that layer. So we're just going to deselect this to show off. So if you alt-click, you can see the individual things and what they are by themselves. It kind of helps you identify what you're working with and what you're working on. If you're only working on just that, you can keep it on that layer, and it only shows that layer when you alt-click it. If you control-click it, right there, you select everything on that layer. So that would select, you basically just select the layer. The entire layer is selected with control click. But we don't want to select the whole thing, so you go to select and deselect if you want to select everything. It helps a lot of things is to deselect occasionally if you're working with selections, because you can only work where you're selecting. So if I did a square here and I want to draw above it, I can't. I can only draw in the square. So selection can help you kind of isolate where you're working so you don't kind of like cross lines and stuff too. It's a very helpful thing to think about. But we're going to select just the blade here on sort color so that we can go up here to blade shadow. Now, I want to delete everything not here. So if I hit delete, it deletes everything only in my selection. So if you go to select, you can invert selection. And it also says it's Control Shift I believe, but you're going to forget that all the time. I don't remember the exact buttons for everything else, so I just go with menus and stuff. So now I've inverted selection. You can't see, but now if you look, there's an outline above everything else because now we're selecting everything here. So the edge for that was just around here. That's just the only thing we're not doing it. So we've inverted the selection, and we hit delete. And so now our shadow is inverted. Deselect, and you can see we've got a nice shadow on the blade here. Now, I want to keep on working on the blade a little bit, so we have our blade shadow here. You can turn it on and off. Now we're going to work on blade shine. Ooh, that's right. Every blade has an edge, so we're going to work on that. We're going to select the sword color again down here, and then go to blade shine. Now we're going to use white. Notice that we're doing simple colors here and stuff. We're going to go with the center thing since we're going to add a shine that's going to affect all the blade, and add in some white little shines on the edges. And also down the center. So now we have all this white area selected, right? All this nice things. Now if we blur this a bit, we don't want to blur too much, a little bit. We get a nice little edge to everything. Go with 3. Now it's white. That's the thing we have is the white kind of stuff. So we just lower the opacity and you get kind of more of an effect towards it, right? So that gives us a nice little like edge to everything else. So this will all end better later. What I'm thinking here is even better is the sword outline. We have the black, right? Let's see if we can add a nice edge to everything too here. Let's see. This is all about testing here. Now, mind you, I didn't do this before I decided to make this video. I kind of thought it'd be good to, well, work with everything better. Let's see here. So, we've got the blank. I'm trying to think if it'd be a good idea or not to go with it. So let's, I'm actually trying to do art here, you know, a little bit. So but that's just showing you how to do these things a bit. We'll add extra shine to it later. Let's just go on to the next bit. So we got this here, this nice little thing. And if I want to make it have a bit of a... Let's just go to sword color. We'll get this selected here. Well, this is the guard. Make sure I didn't do anything weird with that one. Okay. So we're going to call this the sword guard shading. So an interesting thing I like to do with some effects is gradients of stuff. So let's say we get some black down there. Just use the line tool to get nice and straight. And some white on the side. And then we blur it in the middle. You got to blur a bit for it. That kind of creates effect. Let's make some more black sides to it. You just add and reduce as you're doing it. This kind of gives you more of an effect and such. Let's see. All right, let's get rid of that a bit. We'll make it down to here, everything. That way we kind of like set the side of where the light's coming from by making one side darker than the other. Now, I'm going to go ahead and unselect this, and this is going to make it blur outside the boundaries that we had. Remember, everything works only with there, so that gives more of an effect. Get that. We'll stretch it up using Alt to make it taller better. Then I will go back to sword color, select it, invert selection. Go back to our sword guard shaded, and delete. And so now we have a more circular looking thing by using the dark and light and stuff as it goes around. It kind of looks more circular, certain things. But if it looks like it's too much or something, you can always adjust it to kind of work that way. Now, it's sometimes better to go dead center. I think I should have gone. Let's go ahead and make that back to the way we had it. More center. Because I don't think that worked. Sometimes you check these things, you'd be centered. You could be a little not centered, you know? We'll go this way. Give a little bit of the darkness to it. Stretch it up and down so that it doesn't matter as much. And then we'll do our thing. Select, and I will invert. Oh, always Control Z ready, because you hit the. If you don't remember to change to the right layer, you can have those issues. Let's add another thing for here. We're going to add another layer real quick. Oh yes, I forgot I had it inverted. Put that back, invert that back to normal. Now, a lot of the things you should know is when it comes to shading, you can freeform a lot of it. So don't worry too much. We'll just keep this one inside the bunch unless it looks off a little too much. It's still a little off. Now, obviously, we're looking kind of more pixelated bits and stuff, so. It also kind of disappeared there because of the black, so the shading wouldn't be there, but it would have otherwise been outside of the range. So we still invert and get rid of it that way. And then we take the right opacity for it, so we want to make it a little less bad. And we will merge these together, and we still have our whole shading thing there. So now we've got that effect. So next we'll go here, and we'll go to our handle. Yes, now this is where I'm starting to think maybe I'm trying a little bit too much with this here. Let's see, all right. So we have that. So we have the bezel tool, right? So we will make this here. Let's make that opposite here. So we're going to have to follow the line now. Let me just make sure the line width is too much, right? So we'll go up here and set it to 4. This whole time I'm afraid I might have hit a wrong button before and set my models flying off much. So we go there and there. And we've made some black edges to it. We'll go up here. More black edges. Curve it around. And go to the end. And we basically just did it. Now, why do we increase this to make this here? Well, we're going to blur it. Or we can even lower the opacity a bit and make it kind of like a indent or something. So we'll make this the hand guard. We'll call it the top. We'll not even worry about it. We'll just call it the bottom later. So hand guard outlines and make it a little different or something, you know, because we want to add more stuff into this, right? So we want to get that kind of there and put this above it. So now we can shade this properly. So now we go with black and well, we just have fun with it because we're just stretching the way it works, as you know. Forgot I did that too much there, but it's not going to hurt because we're doing the bottom here. So the black side of the dark side will be more. We'll kind of raise a bit the whole way through. That'll give us a nice dark angle to that. And then, of course, blur. Everything blurs. Everything blurs. Until we find a nice good one we like. We can reduce the opacity if we want to. Let's just call it handguard shadow. Then we'll add some lighting effect with the white stuff, the white color. So we'll do that, and we'll get a nice bit of shine to it here. It doesn't quite contradict a lot of the dark one's sides of the shading, so that can be an interesting thing to have sometimes. Just add some color. If you don't know the shape, just do a little bit of it. Weird, odd, and stuff. So we'll put some stuff. Now, it might look off sometimes, being a bit, but you can always blur more. And you can see how it would look. So it might be off in one way, but in some ways, lighting isn't always, and darkness aren't always uniform. There's things they call effect to, and issues and effects. And that's what happens a lot of times with the stuff. So we'll call that, so I don't mess up again, handguard lighting. And now we'll just do something quick for the bottom. Because there's not much here. It's going to be dark, and we just kind of want to darken it. Let's see, sort colors where it was. We go here. We go to this, and we go back to black. And we will add some effects to it. Primarily from the bottom, a little swirl up, and of course, some blur. But because it's so small and weird, you know, we might have to stretch it a bit. Stretch a little side, a little at the bottom. Go back to sword color. Oh, let me see here, make sure it's good enough. I don't think that's quite a good thing. Let's get back here to it. We'll go up to here. Oh, let's see. Let's do a bit there. Then we'll blur it. Okay. We'll create kind of an effect here. So sometimes when you got too low, it's only got a few things it can go through. So the solution for that is to deselect, then blur, and then cut it out later. It gives a bit more freedom to move around the colors and gives you a better sense of it. Just stretch the shading back on to how you would think it would look good, feel good. Oh, look right. And that will give you a better effect on it. Then, of course, we just go back to sword color, select it, up, and invert, then delete. Then it gets rid of all the excess we don't want, right? That makes it better. Let's work on the pommel first. So we have the pommel here. And we kind of want to add some color and design to it. So let's go with a, let's make a divot here. Pommel, I'll just call it divot. This is what it is. It's just a straight thing. Make our line number 2, and we will. Now I want to figure out the center is again, so I pop that out. Now I'm using Control, or Shift, so I can kind of do that. So now we can kind of at least better position it to be in the right spot. I don't want to do too much of something. Now centering it can be difficult for a lot of this stuff, but that's just how it goes. So we have a nice little thing like that. And I'll make a little blur to it. Smaller effect, smaller blur, because we're not trying to get rid of this, we're trying to create an effect. I'm trying to think here. I'll go with, see if I can get a, usually 1 pixels is too little to work with a lot of these things, so we're going to go with white now for the divot. And try to center this perfectly, which is way harder than it looks. Let's see here. Sometimes you just need to just straight up. Okay. So let's see if that causes the effect we want or not. Kind of interesting effect to it. So let's see. We want to make more of a darkened center. Let's try it again, see if that gets it better. And we'll blur. Now, since you can't see how much I'm blurring, we just use a few things. You just make it until it looks interesting or good or whatnot. I don't like that too much. Let's go with an outline of white and see if that causes the effect I want. That's a little better. So it creates the effect and illusion that there's something going on in the center. And of course, we just make a little darker center here to make it look like it's divoting in. And gives us a nice little effect. So that looks nice, right? So now we do some more blurring and shading effects here. In this case, I'm just going to not even worry about a lot of stuff. We're just going to create a circle in there because we're doing a circle stuff. And we're going to blur it. It's not quite doing what we want it to. Alright, we'll just have a blur like that. Lower it a little bit. And then we will select pommel color. Go back to that little shading we had. We'll invert. And delete everything outside of it. Even though you can't see anything, it's there, trust me. So now we kind of got an interesting pommel. Now, the black outline doesn't look good for a lot of stuff. We'll fix that up in a second. So, and we can see that it didn't quite add so much color. Let's make that pommel shading. Or we'll call it texture. It's not really shading we're doing here. We'll do texture. We'll do shading now, though. So pommel shading. Go to pommel color. We can just control-click pommel color because it's only one object. And that will give us that. And then we'll just kind of get a bit of a design here at the bottom and just blur it here. Now it's starting to come together. We're not even going to worry about naming them at this point. It's just so much here that I'm going to probably get too involved if I try any further. So let's just make a little bit of lighting. And we'll blur that too. So now you can see we've achieved a realistic metal look all of a sudden. So that's what you can do with blur. And this is just knocking around and stuff. So this right here is going to be extra simple to do. We're going to go to color, select it, and there's going to be something else I'm going to do with this. You might think, oh, it's going to be something more to it. We're going to make a grip for this thing a little bit. So we're just going to go in the center. Doesn't matter much. Make a line and blur. Get it halfway, then do it again. Because now I have a second kind of like shadow going behind it to kind of give that more of a striking impact there. All right. And that's kind of like how you get a design of a sword going. But let's say we want to enhance it a little bit further and stuff. What we do, the whole layering thing, right? We could add in things like a, let me do it like better. You could add in all sorts of things to it. Make it look like some sort of tide amount, you know, to it. Because this is how it'd be, right? You'd have that going in there and stuff. If we had like a leather bit, right? Oh, forgot I didn't finish the top of that at all. Now, what was that color I was using here? Nice little leather color to it. And we can wrap that around and stuff. But we can just start free-forming for now. And, you know, wrapping of leather is just a simple line to it here and there. You know, it comes a little further and everything else. Because, you know, the leather's thicker than the wood. So you would just do little designs here and there, and you just push it in. Doesn't have to be perfect. This will be how we do it. And if you want to delete something or get rid of it, there's actually on the top left, you can actually go to certain erasers. But again, they have anti-aliasing issues and cause issue. So the simplest, fastest way to get rid of like solid color is to use your selection tool that's square and delete. The others might sometimes collect more things to it than you want. So that's just how that goes. We could, you know, we've got this here, right? So let's go back to a coloring. Did I get? Oh yes. So I hit the eraser tool, unfortunately, and I forgot I had done that. Now we alt click and we can see we got everything, and we kind of do. So before we go any further, I'm going to add texture to this here. So we'll just control and click it, get it all. And we're going to add in some dark locations. Some black shadow for each bit here. So I'm just kind of covering the outline a little. I think I use a lot more. And there, and there, and a little on this one here. Now a good bit up there. So now we got a little darker version of stuff. We're going to blur this like we've been before. And pick which setting we like for it. So we'll go for... It's hard to decide sometimes, because sometimes you're like, oh, this is a little bit more, a little bit less. It can look good. It can look worse. So what I'm going to do is, I like two settings of that blur. So I'm going to copy it. I'm going to blur one for the more, and blur the other one for the less. So one was set for 3. I'm going to blur this one down to 2. So, I mean, you can duplicate your layers, and I like how they look together. One's a little darker, a little bit more. One's a little lighter, and put them together, and that looks great. Now, I know it looks weird just a little bit here. We're going to get into that in a second. So we're going to add some white on this as well. There's a reason I'm separating the layers a little bit here. Let's go down to 1 pixel. When you're doing freehand, 1 pixel is a little bit more permissive in some ways. A little here, a little there, a good bit here. Also, when it comes to blurring, it seems like white goes a lot further than black, so understand that when you're doing your things a little bit. And we've got some lighting going on here, so now we blur this, since we're still working in the same confines a bit. Okay, and now let's go down to here. So we have this here, right? So I want to select the black. So now I get out of it. We have the black selected. I want to get rid of the black areas of the lighting so that the outline can stand out. So now we've got a little bit of a leather handle thing, right? So now we can duplicate these two here, and we can, let's put them beneath it. And so you kind of see we got a bit of a continuing on with it. Now obviously too, you can see that we got a little bit of a extra we don't want. So we get rid of that. Select them all again. Oh. And quite get everything it looks like. So Control Z when you've messed up a little bit. Let's just go ahead. I'll just combine the layers here. I like how it looks. I like how it works. We'll combine the coloration and stuff. And we will move this new bit down here. Now you can see we got a problem is this little bit here going up. I'm going to put this, move this layer beneath it because it's the lower bit as we're going down, you know, like you're wrapping up instead of downward. And now we kind of like just position it. And we work with how we want this to look with the one above it, right? Certain things need to be chipped off or cut off or using our selection tool to kind of make it look right, right? And so then we've got an improved kind of thing. So we can duplicate it again because we're duplicating the one we just edited a little bit. And we can move it down a bit more. And since they're both underneath, and we kind of like how it works, we'll duplicate them again. We'll move these beneath. And you can see it's like there to the palm, right? But also, unfortunately, I do have to say that while it looked good at first for the stuff, let's see. So now we got to figure out what our bottom is, right? So we got to figure out how to end this a little bit. Where would be a good way? We can use our selection tool and select it like that. But you can see there's a bit of the problem with it is the tethering, the anti-aliasing does give issue. But it's not going to be a big issue for a lot of things. You can delete anything it touches will be more or less kind of finished down a bit. Now they look good together. We'll merge it all together. And then we can stretch or flatten it until it looks more tight into it. And so now we have kind of a, if you stretch and close it a bit, it will get a bit more to that. Now we have our sword. We've got some effects. We've gotten some blade stuff. But how do we enhance it a bit further to something we should think about? So we've got at least the colors separated and it looks good. And so if we're going to just say this is the good deal, it works, it looks right, I like how the shading is, I like how it goes, we can just right click everything and merge with layer below. So now the sword is a single thing, right? So if I add some blur to it now, to a slight degree, it will get a little bit hard to see, right? But a little bit, and we kind of anti-alias the sides a bit, right? You can see how it gets there, but from 0, it's kind of a little weird. So what I do is I'll go to a 1 or 2 when it comes to anti-aliasing to create the effect I want. So 1 is just slightly blurred, and you can see the design is way better. It works a lot better. It feels a lot better. But now we can start adding on designs and other things to it. So one thing I was looking at here I wanted to think about was trying to come up with a simple thing on the blade. So I have another layer. We're going to do some edging on the blades and stuff. We've got some white on there. We can blur it a little bit. Let's see if that works. Oh, there we go. Blur too much, it gets away from it. Blur a little, and our design is better. Let's get rid of that middle line so we can see it. You kind of get more of an edge to it that way, adding some white to it. That's not the best, obviously, but it just shows a bit of what you can do to it. And then what I like to do as well is we're using layers, of course, because anything that we're not fully set on using with the design, we can kind of use layers. And you kind of look at things like if you were going to add like a chip or something, kind of like how you would do that, how it would look. You know, little designs, little nicks can be added in throughout something, and it calls effects, because you're probably not going to be that great at it if you're like me, and so you can kind of like do testing. You take it and you figure out how we can kind of do that a little bit. So now we've got little bits of nicks and stuff. You can see like more you blur it, the more difficult it becomes, but a little blur goes a good thing. But we use blacks, it's a little dark, so what you do is you add opacity, and that can kind of like add it into it. It's still not the best shapes we use, so we start figuring out what we're doing with things. Now, if I remember correctly, one of the designs I like to do is a little bit of black and a little bit of white. Can kind of give a raised piece of metal appearance and such to it, which really works well with certain things. But obviously you can see that we're working at such a low pixel area here. Now if this was a lot bigger sword, actually we can do that. Let me see a second. We will make our, let's combine these layers. So I like the bit of that. We can enlarge our sword a bit, since we have the picture more or less done with that, right? So now I've got a little bit more I can work with. So I can just add little nicks here and there with our layers, and let's make a larger black area. Like I said before, when it comes to blur and stuff, and everything else, honestly, too, white is a monster of a color. So it looks like it's small when you do a little bit of blur. It just goes everywhere. Let's check the opacity. And it does look a little better. See, now that's a nick. And you can add little cuts and scrapes and everything else throughout the sword if you want to, as if it's had battle damage or something. A little bit of black. Let's use layer 2 for the black. Scrape here, a scrape there. Just think about where the cuts would come from, how it got there, how, you know, the impact, what it would do to it and stuff, right? And then we'll add in down to 1. Sometimes it would be good to pick like which side you would pick for the white to kind of like work on it so they're all similar instead of like upside down and stuff. A little bit lining on the side here. And yes, this is kind of a little tedious, but this is also kind of a fun part, you know. You're adding in the battle damage, you're adding in the little bits, and it really does turn out quite well when you start figuring out how to add these little details to things. Things that don't cause you too much grief to do. It's a little bit to it, but let's say we're trying to, you want to make it look fancy and stuff. We'll make it look good. Do that too. And this blur effect is how I do these things. This is how I get through everything else. We just follow the lines, we add in blur. So we'll go here. This. And you can see, if you've noticed, the entire time, I've only been working on a few things that are, well, going to work with it. And also, I've noticed the entire time, too, while we're doing this, that I probably hit a few buttons that cause my model to move, because I was using my keyboard, my keypad for some things. But it's fine. Once something's done, it's done, right? I don't think I'm covering too much of the side, yeah, so I was trying to be out of the way, and then all of a sudden I think I hit the button I have set for the get in the way, or at least the enlarge, but it's all fine. So we got this here, and I'll do like this, and you know, we can choose whether or not we want to blur it more or not. So we blur it more, we get that effect, then drive down the opacity to make it like how the nicks are. And you can see it looks pretty good. Now you do this everywhere. You can create a like one way how to do it faster. We saw how like long that would take, right? So if I want to do it faster, what I do would be like I would create a scratch, right? Let's just say we'll just do something like this, right? We'll create the scratch, and I will highlight it like I want to or whatever. We want something kind of generic scratch, right? That's how we want it. And we could do like several of these, right? Several of these could be done. And then we go to our transform tool, and I will, or something, I'll just do copy, edit, copy, paste into active layer. And I got another one. We'll move it around. And I'll do another, copy an active layer. So we got a really nice generic scratch here, right? And also when we kind of move it a little bit, it does kind of look like it's slightly different. I mean, you can stretch it too if you want to do like a long hit, and that can look a lot different because the angle's all different on it and stuff. And they'll do another one. Make this one smaller. And another one. And another one. We'll keep doing a few more. We'll do a few more too. We'll make them even weirder sizes and stuff. And another one. And we'll make this one this way and smaller. And we'll do another one because this is how you kind of like speed it up and stuff. Heck, we'll do some control to like make it look more angled on the blade. There you go. Well, I didn't want it upside down. I wanted it kind of like, there we go. And more too, because, well, we can. And we're just moving it around. We're just knocking everything around. We're just throwing things around to give it that effect. And then, of course, a little bit of blur, a little bit of opacity. Make some more, some less. And you've got a scratched up sword. Now for making in the dents and stuff, there's other things you can do and techniques. A little bit of smudging can work for some stuff. But I mean, a simple thing can just be even using the tools and stuff you have. Just cut it out. But we really kind of just want to do a little bit. Let's see. You know. We just bare tool, you know. Let me see here. If we get it into the outline instead of the end line, it kind of looks a little better with certain things. It's just, this is just how things go. Just nicks and nicks and nicks. And since it's only affecting the outline, but we had the outline so thick with the blade and everything else, it can really add in a bit of flair and life to everything. Now, one thing I see here is I want to avoid a bit more horizontal cuts into it because it doesn't quite get the same effect. And don't forget the top too. Also, avoid straight lines. You can do nearly straight line, but never quite straight line. That will make it a little off. And sometimes you want to avoid lines that look like they're too similar, too close and everything. And check it out. We now have a nicked blade. Now, obviously, what I would probably want to do beforehand all of this is first off, let's move this all together. We will merge it all. And of course, I'm trying to get some design to it. I might add another level 1 blur to it to kind of balance out the edges to it. So now we have our sword. Now, if I want to do something with the sword or test something, I would duplicate it and then go and work on the top one instead. You know, I would work on this somehow. If I want to do something cool with it, make it to the side, use control to kind of make it look like it's coming at you or something, you know. There's all sorts of interesting things we can do with it. So this is how we can do these things. And look, you know, you can make really cool effects with this. Do it that. Spin it around. And create yourself some nice cool symbols or something. This is just how we can work with Krita. All these controls and all these little abilities with it to really make things come home and look great. But that is how you can work with Krita. You know, sometimes it comes, this is all practice and stuff. This is all just on the fly. If I was going to really work on this, I'd be spending days on this much more deeper image and idea. I'd be etching in ideas and thoughts. I'd be trying to look up and carve in runes and things and other cool effects. You know, if I wanted to do some runes or something, I'd carve in some stuff and, you know, make it look like someone actually went through the effort to merge in something cool and effects and other things, and, you know, basically just carve it up to make it look right and look like things that would actually exist for the design and stuff. And of course, I use blur. Blur, by the way, if I don't think I stated because I forget that OBS is not picking up the you know, the designs and stuff, or picking up the the right click of the menu and stuff. Blur is in filter, by the way. So if anyone's looking at that, you know, filter, blur. I'll probably put that in the video when I make it and stuff. But this is how you create like art. And let's say, real quick, that white background's boring. What do I do instead? On the left side here, we have a gradient tool. What you should do is, well, pick a color for the background. Any color. Let's go with a dark red. Let me just unlock that so I can do that. A dark red. Okay, well, let's find a better color. Let's go with an orangey, dark orange. There we go. Looks a little better and stuff. Or let's just go with black. Let's just add black. Black background, right? If we want to add cool effects, we'll then add in the red from there, you know. So we use a gradient and stuff, and you want to make a really cool thing. The start of it is where the gradient is 0. The end is where it ends up being 100. So it's kind of in between that. So from no to some. And so you can create effects really cool with it if you do it just right to really sell off your work of art, you know? And that is how you can kind of draw without any skill. Now, you saw me with the Bezier tool. The one thing I didn't cover quite so much is how you would really get the effects out there. How do you like really get the designs when you aren't very good with a lot of the uh, colors or whatnot, or choosing like the design, the image, the shape and all that. You have trouble figuring it out. Find an image online, copy it and paste it into your layers, and use the Bezier tool to rotoscope it. Get some basic shapes out there and then work in the middle of it. Everything here has a basic shape. This sword has a basic shape. You can use a Bezier tool to get the basic shape design. Just like this. It doesn't have to be perfect, but it can help you immensely figure things out. And you just go on with it and start getting your basic shape going from there. So if I really wanted to, I could easily rotoscape this sword and reproduce it if I saw it online somewhere. But this is what we've made. This is just a simple showcasing of what you can do without any artistic talent. It's all about that basic color. What we started with was a very, very simple coloration and outline. And in the result, we get this. Now, that's not a bad thing, you know. We work with certain things to make it stand out and work. And it's just not the greatest thing in the world. This is not the best thing in the world. I didn't do an amazing job on it, but I still managed to do it, even though I don't have any artistic talent. But if I was given enough time, I could really make this thing pop out. I would add in extra effects. I'd put it in a stone or something, put it at an angle, do some cool effects, add in some new shading and lighting, overlay it, etch in some runes and designs, give some effects to the runes glowing and stuff. There's all sorts of effects you can do if you just think about it. But the best way to do with art is to start drawing and then from there add in the details. That's how you make art. You create it, you add in details, you add in shadows, you throw on layers so that you can take away what you want and take away what you don't want. You know, if I wanted, you know, runes, I put in a layer for runes. I make the effect work. Like, I don't like that. I click off the layer. That's all it is to art, people. You just create a shape, you add in some color, you add some shading, you add in some detail. Done. Use the other effects and tools and stuff, and that will give you the effect that you want. Because then everything is right there at your fingertips. Well, that's about everything I can really show you guys for the basic art thing. I kind of get a little carried away when I do art, so I don't think I did the best ability in showcasing how to do it. But if you like this stuff, we can do some more, and I'll talk about how I'm doing it and be better at how to do some art and stuff. So let me know in the future if you guys would like me to do some more artistic kind of like work tutorials and show you guys how to do it. And if you want to see a specific thing drawn and we kind of go over how to make that and stuff, leave a comment on that. No one ever leaves in comments, so not much gets seen or done. So I kind of stopped putting a lot of effort into a lot of these videos because not getting seen, I can get a lot of words out of it and stuff, but I'm going to keep doing them, and we'll do some more next week and stuff. I'll try to figure out what I want to do for the weekly video, but we'll see what goes on. Anyways, everyone, thank you for tuning in as always, and I will see you next time.